What if the secrets hidden within your own home were darker than you ever imagined? A seemingly ordinary family living in a quiet neighborhood, shattered by an unthinkable crime, the tragic murder of an innocent stepdaughter. But what could drive a man to commit such a horrific act? As we unravel this chilling story, you will uncover the twisted motivations of a stepfather desperate to keep his affair concealed at any cost. Stay with us as we delve into the shadows of deceit, betrayal, and the haunting reality that not everything is as it seems. The family at the center of our story appeared typical from the outside, a picture of unity and harmony. John, the stepfather, was a respected figure in his community, known for his charismatic charm and warm smile. He was married to Sarah, a devoted and loving mother, whose life revolved around a family and her cherished daughter, Lily. Lily, a bright and joyful teenager, was known for her infectious laughter and kindness. She shared a close bond with her mother, and her presence brought light and happiness to their home. But beneath the facade of normalcy lay a web of hidden strains that would unravel everything. John and Sarah's marriage, once a partnership of love and trust, had grown cold and distant over time. There were whispered arguments behind closed doors, tense dinners where words were few, but emotions were many. Friends and neighbors noticed the shift, yet few could comprehend the depth of tension simmering beneath the surface. John's growing absences were explained away by his demanding work schedule, a justification that masked a darker truth. Sarah, in her quiet moments, felt the distance widening, yet hoped that time would mend the invisible fractures. But Lily, perceptive beyond her years, sensed the undercurrents of unease. She questioned the late-night phone calls, the changes in John's demeanor, and the shadow of secrecy that loomed ever larger. The family carried on, each member wearing a mask of normalcy, unaware of how close the storm had come to tearing them apart. Their lives intertwined, yet burdened by secrets they dared not share, setting the stage for the tragedy that would forever change them. The secret affair was a shadow lurking in the background, a sinister thread woven carefully into the fabric of John's life. It began innocently enough, as many do, a chance meeting at a work function where he encountered Emily, a vibrant, intriguing colleague with a smile as captivating as it was dangerous. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, a spark igniting in the dimly lit venue, unnoticed by the bustling crowd around them. What started as an office friendship soon morphed into something more forbidden. Lunch meetings turned into stolen evenings, whispers exchanged in hushed tones, and text messages that held secrets in their digital embrace. Emily, with her allure and attention, became an escape for John, a diversion from the realities of his fractured marriage. He craved the excitement, the thrill, and the illusion of freedom she offered, yet always knew it came with a price. As John's affair deepened, the deception seeped into the heart of his home, tainting the atmosphere with a palpable tension. He became more withdrawn, his temper unpredictable, and his excuses for late nights increasingly dubious. Sarah, though silently questioning, dismissed her doubts, clinging to the hope of rekindling their strained relationship. But it was Lily, with her curiosity and intuition, who noticed the changes in her stepfather. She observed his distracted demeanor, the furtive glances at his phone, and the name Emily that appeared too often in his conversations. The air at home grew heavier, the once vibrant laughter subdued by the unspoken truth. Their family, once a fortress, was fragmenting under the weight of unconfessed sins. Witnesses, neighbors, and colleagues, perceived the shift in John's behavior. Some recalled seeing him with a woman who was not his wife, their interactions occasionally too close for comfort. The illusion of discreetness was shattered by the subtle whispers, a community aware yet unsure of the full extent of John's secret. The affair, a hidden cancer, was slowly eating away at the family's core, leaving behind a trail of broken trust and unanswered questions. In a world where truth battles against deceit, this hidden relationship would soon become the focal point of a story far darker than anyone could have anticipated. The early warning signs were subtle yet unsettling, like the calm before a storm that only a few could sense. Friends and neighbors observed the slight changes, the uneasy glances, and the strained smiles that replaced genuine warmth. It was in the small moments, the ones often overlooked, where the true story began to unravel. Sarah would often hear the hollow echoes of laughter from John, laughter that seemed to lack the joy and spontaneity it once had. To anyone else, it might have appeared as nothing more than exhaustion from a busy day, but to Sarah, it was a red flag hoisted high. Lily, young yet perceptive, noticed these nuances. She was quick to sense the discomfort that had settled over the evening dinners, where conversations were stilted and laughter was absent. Her once attentive stepfather now seemed lost in thought, his eyes not meeting hers as if they carried secrets too heavy to bear. The neighbors, too, whispered among themselves. They had witnessed the late night arrivals, John parking his car with lights off, slipping into the house like a shadow. They'd seen Emily from afar, her presence around John raising silent alarms among those who looked closely. The whispers grew louder, and the air thickened with speculation. A neighbor once noted how Lily, usually a beacon of happiness, seemed quieter during her walks to school. Her head hung low as if burdened by an unseen weight. The signs were there, delicate threads woven into the tapestry of their daily lives, a silent plea for someone to notice the fractures forming in their facade. It was the uneasy feelings, the gut instincts, and the hushed conversations that provided the first glimpses into the chaos brewing beneath their surface. Those who dared to question were met with polite dismissals or evasive answers, but the truth lingered in the air, waiting to be unveiled. As we tread deeper into this narrative, these early warning signs become the haunting echoes of the tragedy that was to unfold, reminders of the moments when intervention was possible, yet never taken. The day of the crime began like any other, shrouded in the deceptive calm of normalcy. Morning light filtered through the windows, casting soft shadows on the walls of a household teetering on the brink of disaster. Lily, with her habitual enthusiasm, prepared for school, unaware of the darkness gathering at the edges of her world. She left home with a spring in her step, her backpack swinging lightly as she walked down the familiar path, greeting friends and neighbors with her usual cheer. As the sun climbed higher, marking the passage of time, John plotted his course with cold determination. His earlier conversations with Emily were still fresh in his mind, fueling his resolve to keep his hidden life intact. Milestones of the day passed, mundane yet sinister, as he moved about with an eerie finality. After Lily left for school, he spent the morning at work, executing routine tasks with an unsettling efficiency, his demeanor cool and detached. Early afternoon found Lily returning home, her laughter echoing in the hallway as she recounted stories from her day. She chatted with Sarah, sharing snippets of her life, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond her sight. Meanwhile, John had returned, his presence muted, like the calm before the storm. As the afternoon waned, the household settled into the rhythm of a quiet evening. Sarah, occupied in the kitchen, prepared dinner, while John claimed an unusual amount of solitude, his behavior cloaked in ominous silence. Lily retreated to her room, immersed in her own world of books and music, unaware of the silent storm circling ever closer. Evening shadows crept in, painting the walls with an unsettling gloom. Neighbors recalled seeing John leaving the house briefly, his demeanor tense and hurried, though they thought little of it at the time. The air felt heavy, charged with an indescribable tension, as if the walls themselves held their breath, bracing for the inevitable. The timeline of darkness stretched thin as the day drew to an end. Key witnesses, though unaware of their roles, had seen pieces of the puzzle fall into place. They noted John's re-entry into the house, his face a mask of decision and denial. As night descended, cloaking the world in its velvet embrace, the act was completed, a crescendo of silence that shattered lives. The house that once echoed with Lily's laughter now stood eerily still, the weight of secrets and sins pressing heavily on its foundation. The day of the crime ended, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and echoes of a life extinguished too soon. As the truth slowly surfaced, the fragments of that day would come together, forming the harrowing outline of a tragedy born from the shadows of deceit. The crime scene was discovered in the early hours of a crisp autumn morning, when the world seemed to hold its breath in the presence of an unfolding nightmare. The house, usually lively with the echo of family routines, was now swathed in an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant calls of awakening birds. It was Sarah who first stumbled upon the unimaginable, her voice a raw cry that reverberated through the empty halls and spilled into the cool morning air. The room where Lily lay was a juxtaposition of chaos and stillness, her lifeless form a tragic centerpiece amidst the remnants of a life abruptly halted. Her bed was disheveled, sheets twisted as though they themselves had tried to hold on to her fleeting spirit. Books lay scattered, pages whispering stories of dreams that would never come to pass. The air was heavy, laden with the metallic scent of violence, a stark contrast to the innocence it had stolen. Law enforcement arrived swiftly, the flashing lights of their vehicles casting eerie shadows that flickered across the walls, turning the scene into a surreal tableau of tragedy and investigation. Stepping into the room, officers were met with the palpable weight of sorrow and disbelief. Their initial impressions were of a life interrupted with brutal suddenness, the scene a testament to a crime driven by desperation and fear. Forensic specialists moved with a hushed urgency, meticulously collecting evidence that whispered the story of what had transpired in the dead of night. Fingerprints on the banister, strands of hair caught on the bedpost, and a faint trail of smudged footprints across the floor, all pieces in a puzzle yet to be assembled. Every detail was scrutinized, every shadow examined for the secrets it might hold. A blood-stained note discarded haphazardly on the desk became a focal point, its contents a chilling revelation of the final thoughts of one caught in the web of betrayal. The room was photographed from every angle, preserving the scene in digital permanence, a stark reminder of a moment that would forever change those who entered its confines. Initial impressions from law enforcement painted a picture of premeditation, clouded by panic, their minds working to untangle the motives that could drive such an act. As the investigation pressed forward, The crime scene stood as a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy, a place where innocence and treachery met in a heart-wrenching collision. With every piece of evidence unearthed, the narrative of what took place became clearer, each discovery a step closer to revealing the dark truths hidden within the walls of a once happy home. The initial investigation unfolded with a meticulous urgency, drawing a deep breath of determination from the detectives tasked with unraveling the grim tapestry of truth hidden within those quiet walls. They approached the case with a focused intensity, aware that every minute detail could be the key to unlocking the mystery. As the early morning mist hung in the air, detectives arrived at the house, their eyes scanning the scene for any hint of the untold story that lay beneath the surface. Sarah, consumed by grief, could barely articulate her devastation, her words a fractured mosaic of disbelief and pain. Yet her agony spoke volumes, serving as a silent testimony to the horror that had engulfed her family. John, on the other hand, presented a facade of controlled sorrow, his demeanor impassive and oddly detached as he recounted his whereabouts the previous night. Detectives noted his carefully rehearsed responses, each answer calculated, each detail precise to the point of raising suspicion. His alibi hinged on his claim of a late-night business meeting, a narrative supported by a colleague who vouched for his presence at an off-site location. However, the colleague's story held slight discrepancies, the times mentioned not aligning perfectly with John's account, sowing seeds of doubt in the minds of the investigators. As detectives dug deeper, they conducted interviews with neighbors and potential witnesses, piecing together a mosaic of observations and whispers. The community's recollection of the events varied, some noting John's frequent absences and the mysterious visits from Emily, whose presence was now a subject of intense scrutiny. Conversations with Sarah revealed a heart-wrenching admission of her unsuspicion, yet her mention of the strained relationship and John's unusual behavior added layers to the already complex picture. The investigators faced numerous challenges, not least of which was the tangled web of alibis and potential motives that seemed to obscure more than they clarified. Each story presented a slightly different version of events, creating a kaleidoscope of perspectives that required careful navigation. As they sifted through endless reports, eyewitness accounts, and forensic findings, the detectives encountered a series of conflicting testimonies, each bearing its own weight of truth and deception. Despite the daunting task ahead, the investigators remained resolute, driven by the quest for justice for Lily, whose young life had been so cruelly extinguished. As the pieces of the puzzle slowly began to fit together, the detectives prepared to delve even deeper into the shadows, ready to confront the dark and twisted motives that lay ahead. The breakthrough came as a bolt from the blue, a sliver of light piercing the dark veil of mystery that cloaked the investigation. It was late in the afternoon, the detectives weary yet undeterred, when a crucial piece of evidence emerged, transforming the course of their inquiry. Among the chaos of testimonies and data, a witness stepped forward, hesitant yet resolute, their words carrying the weight of unforeseen clarity. A neighbor from across the street, who had often remained on the periphery of the unfolding drama, recounted seeing John with Emily on the evening of the crime. This was not their usual clandestine meeting, but a heated exchange, their voices rising above the gentle hum of dusk. This revelation, delivered tentatively, painted a vivid picture of tension and desperation, adding a new dimension to John's carefully constructed alibi. As this testimony was delivered, the detectives felt the chill of a hidden truth surfacing, the narrative of guilt shifting perceptibly toward John. The investigation gained momentum, like a river breaking free from its icy bonds, surging with renewed vigor toward its inevitable conclusion. Alongside the witness statement, a digital trail came to light, a series of messages exchanged between John and Emily on the night in question. These messages, previously overlooked amidst the flood of data, bore timestamps that contradicted John's claims about his whereabouts. Each text, filled with veiled urgency and coded promises, unfolded the tapestry of a relationship entwined with deceit and secrecy. This digital evidence, in conjunction with the neighbor's testimony, forged a path through the tangled web of lies, narrowing the gaze of suspicion onto John with unwavering focus. Detectives, driven by the dual revelations, recalibrated their investigation, their sights now firmly set on unraveling John's involvement in Lily's tragic end. The house, once a sanctuary and now a site of betrayal, became the epicenter of their scrutiny. Forensic experts revisited their findings, delving deeper into the minutiae of physical evidence with a fresh perspective. They unearthed traces that further implicated John, including his fingerprints in places inexplicably linked to Lily's final moments. This accumulation of evidence, combined with the chilling witness account, painted a damning portrait against John, casting him as a man cornered by his own duplicity. The breakthrough not only intensified the investigation, but also tempered the resolve of those seeking justice for Lily. As the focus tightened around John, the detectives braced themselves to uncover the full extent of his involvement, knowing that the answers lay hidden within the shadows of a life built on secrets. This pivotal moment, where truth clawed its way to the surface, marked a decisive turn in the investigation, setting the stage for the inevitable confrontation that loomed on the horizon. The arrest of John unfolded like a scene out of a noir thriller, casting a long shadow over the community and shattering the fragile veneer of normalcy that had cloaked the tragedy. It was a grey morning when the officers arrived at the doorstep of the house that had once been a home, turning it into a tableau of betrayal and justice. Their presence was a solemn announcement, a culmination of the relentless pursuit of truth that had led them to this pivotal moment. John, who greeted them with a facade of calm, quickly realized the gravity of the situation as they produced the warrant, a single sheet of paper that bore the weight of irrefutable evidence. His eyes flickered with disbelief as the detectives recounted the damning trail of messages and the witness accounts that had nailed shut the coffin of his carefully crafted lies. In a neighborhood accustomed to the quiet hum of mundane life, the scene that unfurled was a stark contrast, an explosion of drama that rippled through the streets. Neighbors watched from their doorsteps, awash with disbelief, their whispers a crescendo that rose with every passing moment. The man they thought they knew, the charming figure who waved at them from across the lawn, was now being led away in handcuffs, his secrets laid bare for all to see. The expression of betrayal was etched deeply into their faces, a community reeling from the shock of the revelation. Within the family, the reactions were a fragile tapestry of disbelief and betrayal. Sarah, her world already shattered by the loss of her daughter, stood in silent devastation, the reality of her husband's arrest compounding her grief. Her eyes, once filled with warmth and trust, now mirrored the depths of a heart torn asunder. She struggled to reconcile the man she had loved with the monster the evidence portrayed, grappling with the duality of her emotions. Lily's memory hung heavily in the air, an innocent life stolen, leaving behind echoes of laughter that would never again fill the halls. The moment of John's arrest became a crucible of reckoning, a convergence of truths and lies that marked the dawn of a new and painful reality for those entwined in his life. As the police car pulled away, leaving behind a community in stunned silence, the whispers grew into a story shared far beyond its borders. It was a tale of betrayal intertwined with sorrow, a grim reminder of the darkness that can reside within those we think we know. The impact of John's arrest reached beyond the immediate family, becoming a cautionary tale in the fabric of the community's narrative. In this moment, justice began its march forward, propelled by the weight of truth and the hope that healing could emerge from the shadows of one man's desperate deceit. The confession unfolded within the sterile confines of an interrogation room, where the air was thick with tension and the weight of uncovered truths. John, seated at a small metal table, faced the detectives who carried with them the gravity of the evidence amassed against him. In that room, the stark lighting cast unforgiving shadows across his face, every flicker of emotion laid bare for all to see. The interrogation commenced with practiced precision, the detectives weaving a meticulous narrative, each word a carefully placed step towards unveiling the truth. They began by presenting the undeniable evidence, the digital messages that betrayed his alibi, followed by the haunting witness testimony that captured his altercation with Emily. As the detectives methodically laid out the facts, John's facade of composure began to fracture, the realization of inescapable consequences creeping into his consciousness. John's initial response was one of deflection, a desperate denial that struggled to withstand the tidal wave of facts. Yet, with each pointed question, his defenses crumbled further, the truth clawing its way to the surface. The detectives, sensing his hesitation, pressed forward with unyielding determination, their voices steady yet firm, each pause allowing the weight of his actions to sink deeper into the recesses of his mind. As hours stretched into the evening, fatigue and despair etched themselves into John's demeanor. It was in a moment of quiet admission, a whispered confession laced with regret, that he began to unravel the story that had lain hidden beneath webs of deceit. He spoke of the affair with Emily, a dangerous indulgence that spiraled into chaos, driven by fear and the desperate desire to retain the illusion of control over his life. The room was silent, but for the soft whir of a recording device, capturing every word, every sigh, as John recounted the events of that fateful night. His narrative was punctuated by halting breaths and the occasional tremor, his voice a mixed melody of sorrow and contrition. With each revelation, the magnitude of his crime became undeniable, the confession weaving together the final pieces of a tragic puzzle. In the stillness following his confession, the detectives absorbed the magnitude of what had been laid bare, their mission no longer to unravel the truth, but to carry it forward in pursuit of justice. John's confession marked a turning point, a somber acknowledgement of a life irrevocably altered by his own hand. The shadows of his actions, once hidden, now stood starkly against the glare of truth, illuminating the path to resolution, where the echoes of Lily's voice would guide the way. The trial unfolded under the scrutiny of an eager public and a courtroom that buzzed with tension. The air was thick with anticipation, a charged atmosphere that seemed to hold its breath as the proceedings began. John, seated at the defendant's table, appeared a shadow of the man who once inhabited the role of a caring stepfather. The prosecution, armed with an arsenal of evidence, painted a vivid picture of premeditated betrayal and heartless crime. They meticulously recounted John's affair, the digital trail of messages, and the chilling confession that tore through the heart of the courtroom. Their argument was clear, structured, and powerful, leaving no room for doubt about the gravity of John's actions. They called upon witnesses to support their narrative, including the neighbor whose testimony had shifted the tide of the investigation. As the neighbor took the stand, retelling the events with a clarity that sent shivers through the gallery, the courtroom hung on their every word, the image of a secret encounter vividly etched in the minds of all present. The defense, alternatively, leaned heavily on the narrative of a man pushed to his limits, a desperate attempt to salvage some sympathy for a client whose actions had shattered the lives around him. They painted John as a flawed but remorseful individual, caught in a web of circumstances beyond his control. They urged the jury to consider the psychological strain he faced, attempting to humanize him amidst the weight of his confessed guilt. Expert witnesses were called to articulate the mental health struggles John allegedly experienced, hoping to cast a flicker of doubt on the intent behind his actions. Yet, despite their best efforts, the defense's story often felt hollow, overshadowed by the unyielding evidence presented by the prosecution. The courtroom drama reached a crescendo with emotional testimonies from friends and family, each recounting their memories of Lily, their words a haunting reminder of the life so cruelly extinguished. Sarah, Lily's mother, took the stand, her voice unwavering yet thick with sorrow, as she described the ripple effect of the tragedy on their family. Her testimony was not just a recounting of facts, but an emotional plea for justice, a mother's heart laid bare in front of a nation listening. Each statement carried an emotional toll, not just on those involved, but on every individual in attendance. As the trial became more than a legal proceeding, it was a journey through grief and a quest for accountability. The juxtaposition of cold, hard evidence against the raw emotions of those affected created a poignant narrative, one that resonated far beyond the walls of the courtroom. As the trial drew to a close, the jury retired to deliberate, tasked with the burden of determining John's fate. As they exited the courtroom, the atmosphere was thick with a mix of hope, tension, and an unspoken understanding that whatever the outcome, the scars left would echo far into the future. The psychological analysis of John's motives delves into the intricate tapestry of his mind, where secrets and desires coiled tightly around his actions. Expert psychologists who examined his case painted a portrait of a man trapped in a self-made labyrinth of deception and unmet needs. Central to John's psyche was a profound fear of losing control, a fear that manifested in his compulsive need to maintain dual realities. He craved the stability of his family, yet he sought the thrill and freedom offered by his affair with Emily. This dichotomy created a relentless tension within him, one that eventually snapped under pressure. Experts suggested that John exhibited signs of narcissistic tendencies, characterized by a deep-seated need for admiration coupled with a lack of empathy. This trait could explain how he rationalized his actions, prioritizing his desires over the well-being of those around him. His charming exterior, well crafted to engage and deceive those in his orbit, masked a complex internal struggle, a struggle intensified by his inability to confront failure or vulnerability. This psychological pattern emerged not as an overnight development, but as a consequence of long-standing behaviors and decisions. Friends and family, upon reflection, recalled instances where John's need for validation seemed insatiable, his actions driven by an unyielding pursuit of personal gratification. There were moments of fleeting intimacy, followed by emotional withdrawal, hinting at an instability that lurked beneath his composed facade. The affair with Emily was, in many ways, an extension of this psychological need, a reflection of his desire for affirmation outside the familial construct. During the trial, expert testimonies also highlighted potential, undiagnosed mental health conditions that may have contributed to his state of mind, conditions that skewed his perception of reality and ethical boundaries. They pointed to moments of impulsivity, where John's decisions appeared less calculated and more driven by a desperate attempt to regain a semblance of control. These insights offered a glimpse into the turbulent currents that propelled John's actions, shedding light on the psychological factors that culminated in a tragic loss. By piecing together these behavioral threads, a picture of a deeply flawed individual emerged, one whose internal chaos ultimately spiraled into an irreversible act. As we unravel this facet of John's psyche, the gravity of the consequences serves as a haunting reminder of how unchecked desires and unresolved psychological conflicts can lead to devastating outcomes. The impact on the family was akin to a storm that left nothing untouched in its wake, a tragedy that fractured lives and tested the very fibers of their beings. In the aftermath of Lily's murder, the surviving family members found themselves adrift in a sea of grief and disbelief, their once vibrant lives now shadowed by loss and sorrow. Sarah, the heartbroken mother, bore the brunt of the tragedy with a quiet strength that belied the depth of her wounds. Yet, behind closed doors, she struggled with the unbearable weight of loss that had cast a long shadow over her existence. Her days seemed endless, marked by absences and echoes of laughter that once filled their home. Friends and family rallied around her, offering solace, yet nothing could fill the void left by Lily's absence. In public, Sarah's few statements reflected a poignant mixture of resilience and heartbreak. She spoke of Lily's bright spirit and the unending bond between a mother and her child, her words infused with love and an overwhelming sense of longing. Each appearance was a reminder to the world of the precious life lost and of a mother's enduring strength to honor her daughter's memory. John's arrest had not only shattered their familial trust, but had also left Sarah grappling with an impossible dichotomy: the man she loved versus the reality unveiled by his actions. Her reflections on this betrayal were deeply private, shared sparingly with those closest to her, as she navigated a turbulent journey from anger to gradual acceptance. For Sarah, coping became a daily struggle, an ongoing process of seeking peace amidst the turmoil. Community support played a crucial role in her healing journey, providing a network of care that enveloped her in moments of despair. Donations for Lily's memorial poured in, a testament to the love and empathy of those touched by the story. The public, moved by the tragedy, stood in solidarity with Sarah, their support a beacon of hope in her darkest hours. Meanwhile, Lily's friends, too, felt the seismic impact of her loss, their young lives marked by a profound sense of absence. They spoke of her infectious joy, her kindness, in social media posts that became digital reminders of the memories they cherished. Gathering to honor her memory, they planted a garden in her name, a living tribute to their lost friend, symbolizing hope and renewal amid loss. As the family and community slowly began to mend, Lily's legacy continued to inspire acts of kindness and advocacy against domestic violence, an enduring reminder that from tragedy, light could still emerge. The ripple effects of the crime resonated far beyond, touching lives in ways both seen and unseen, forming a patchwork of healing and resilience. The family's journey through grief was shared by many who had followed their story, each step toward healing an invitation to remember Lily and to cherish the bonds that bind us all. The public reaction was a whirlwind of emotions and opinions, a testament to the intense interest and impact of the case that had captured the nation's attention. The media, with its insatiable thirst for captivating stories, descended upon the narrative with fervor. Headlines splashed across tabloids and news channels, each outlet weaving their rendition of the tragic tale that had unfolded. The crime had all the elements of a story that gripped the public imagination, a seemingly perfect family shattered by a hidden affair, resulting in an unimaginable loss. Journalists delved into every aspect, from John's double life to the psychological analysis presented in court, sparking debates on social and moral implications. As the trial proceeded, live updates and opinion pieces flooded the airwaves and internet, each pundit eager to dissect the evidence, speculate on motives, and predict outcomes. Public forums buzzed with discussions, a digital echo chamber where opinions clashed and sympathies were expressed. While some empathized with Sarah's plight, their hearts aching for a mother's grief, others were drawn into the darker facets of human nature reflected in John's actions. Social media became a battleground of emotions, hashtags trending as users shared thoughts, outrage, and support in equal measure. Memes, though inappropriate, surfaced, an unsettling sign of how tragedy can sometimes become a spectacle in the digital age. Yet, amidst the chaos, there were voices of reason and compassion. Communities rallied to support Sarah, organizing vigils and fundraisers to honor Lily's memory, showing solidarity in the face of sorrow. They shared stories of their own experiences, fostering a network of empathy that transcended geographical boundaries. Controversies were not absent either, as the trial highlighted shortcomings in how domestic issues can go unnoticed until tragedy strikes. Debates arose over the need for better identification and support for families in crisis, prompting discussions around systemic changes required to prevent similar occurrences. As media coverage continued, it became clear that the story had struck a chord, prompting reflections on the complexities of human relationships and the hidden struggles within seemingly ordinary lives. The public's engagement demonstrated not only fascination with the macabre, but a deep-seated desire for justice and understanding. In the aftermath of the trial, as the media spotlight began to wane, the echoes of Lily's story persisted in the public consciousness, a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring quest for truth and healing. The conclusion of this harrowing tale leaves us with a deep sense of sorrow and a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The tragic events that unfolded are a stark testament to the catastrophic consequences of deceit and betrayal, unraveling a family once held together by fragile threads. John's desperate attempts to hide his affair led him down a path of no return, resulting in the loss of an innocent life and the shattering of countless others. As we reflect on this case, we are reminded of the importance of honesty and the perilous nature of harboring secrets that can lead to irreversible acts. It urges us all to be more vigilant in recognizing the signs of turmoil in those around us and to offer support to those in need. The broader implications of this story extend beyond the confines of a single household, prompting us to consider how unchecked desires and a lack of communication can spiral into tragedy. We must acknowledge the role of mental health awareness and community intervention in preventing such devastating outcomes. As we close this chapter, let us remember Lily, whose light was extinguished far too soon, and strive to honor her memory by fostering empathy and understanding in our own lives. We invite you to share your thoughts on this story and engage with us in a thoughtful dialogue, reflecting on the lessons learned and exploring similar narratives that deepen our understanding of the human condition. If you found this content compelling, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more mysteries that delve into the complexities of life. And don't forget to like the video and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest releases. Together, let us continue to seek truth and find meaning in the stories we share.